Hi everyone, welcome to the TICT's Tassie Tourism Masterclass. This is week 5. I'm your host, Sam Denmead, and I'm going to be talking to you today about getting the best bang for your buck and maximising your ROI, or your return on investment, on your marketing dollars. So let's get into it. Okay, return on investment. That's pretty much what you want to get out of your spend on marketing. So whether you're a marketing manager or you're a small business operator, you own the business, you do all of the work, you still have to be accountable for the amount of money that you spend on marketing. So the return on investment is simply the return you get for what you put into marketing. As it turns out, measuring your ROI isn't as common as it should be. Maybe it's because you just don't want to know what the results are, partly because maybe you already know it didn't go to plan, or maybe your boss, you just know your boss is not going to be happy. It's because of this lack of accountability that marketing can get a bad rap. So rather than just throw money at marketing and hope it delivers, I'm going to share with you some information about return on investment and ways you can know exactly what your marketing investment is doing for you, and so you can make your marketing department accountable for every dollar and minute that you invest. Rather than doing just what everyone else is doing in the market and hope it works for you, I'll help you make a plan for your business that suits you and your customers and get a better return for your business and ultimately to your wallet. We'll talk about the important metrics that we'll be using to easily track and those that are a bit trickier but still worth it if you get it right. So ROI literally stands for return on investment, and all industries use it in all departments of all industries, in every business. Some people do it better than others. And in marketing, you can add an M to that, so it can be ROMI, return on marketing investment. By measuring your ROI, you can work out what's working for you, what campaigns you're doing that are working, what isn't working. You can make changes and you can go back and fix things, and at least you know where your money is working for you and what you need to do to fix it. ROI, let's do a simple calculation. So we're looking at gross profit minus your investment in marketing, so your marketing spend divided by your marketing spend, and to get the percentage, you multiply that by 100. In the example on the screen, you'll see there's a $300,000 gain in profit, so that's what you made in sales, in addition to what else you might have been making, minus the cost of the marketing activity, divided by the cost of the marketing activity, multiplied by 100 to get the percentage. So in this case, there's a 200% return on investment, which is pretty good, and most people would be very happy with that. Small businesses might need to take a couple of zeros off. It's still the same equation, same calculation. It's the additional money that you've earned in addition to what you'd already be earning, so additional profit that you've made. So let's use $3,000, for example. $3,000 gain for a small business who have spent $1,000 on marketing, again, results in a 200% return on investment for that $1,000 spend. So again, still pretty good. But what is a good return on investment? Well, 200% is pretty good. Essentially, most people feel that every dollar you put in, if you gain a dollar back, that's an excellent return. But it's all different across industries, across businesses, and it depends on what you're actually seeking to achieve in the first place. So we're going to talk about goals shortly. But before we start to talk about goals, we need to dive deeper into what you're actually calculating. It's not as simple as you'd hope. So you've got your additional gain from the marketing that you've done, but the actual spend that it took to get you there isn't just the cost of the campaign, there's more to it. And some people refer to those as the 3 T's. The 3 T's, the first is tax. There's always some sort of tax implication. Another T is time. So that's the amount of time that you have to put in to make this campaign work, whether it's your sales force or your marketing team or your reservations agents. And then there's the transaction cost. So that could be a GST cost, or a bank fee, or a commission, or another cost associated with the selling of this product. So you've got to take those things into account. And also you have to take into account inflation. It's really only applicable if the campaign is part of a much longer term marketing activity. So it takes a fairly long time, and inflation may have something to do with it. And then there's also the opportunity cost. So what have you foregone in order to do this marketing campaign? What could you have spent your money on in a better way that could have resulted in a better return? Those opportunity costs, you may not know the answer to that, but it is something you need to take into consideration. And the final thing is you've also got to deduct some sales growth that you would have already been experiencing. You can't put all of your eggs in the basket of this particular marketing campaign. So for instance, if your business was undergoing a 5% growth already, you need to deduct that from the campaign as well. So to get the true return on investment, you need to take those things into consideration as well. Okay, I know you're all out there keen, ready to get started on your marketing activities for this year to get back into business. But before you go on a spending spree with all your marketing, we need to have a look at some of the goals. What are you trying to achieve? And we need to be accountable for some of those things. For most business owners, return on investment is literally what they see in terms of sales or revenue. But there's way more that we can look at that is not just sales or revenue related. There's other metrics that we can use that are hard or soft metrics, and we're going to talk a bit about them in a minute. But before we do that, let's go back to the foundations a little bit. Before we even try to allocate any money or determine what marketing activities we're going to do, I really want everybody who runs a business to just take a step back and just check your foundations are right. It's really easy to kind of have a product, know what it is selling for, think you know your customers, and just get on with it. But now is the perfect time to do some deep reflection on your business, have a look at your product, who your customers are, and take a good hard look at what actually it is that you offer. So you've already seen, if you've been paying attention to these masterclasses, you've learnt a bit about brand, and you've also learnt a bit about your target market. So those things are super important to go back and ensure you are doing all the right things in terms of what your brand is and who your customer is. So get those right before you can move on to the next step, which is checking you've got the marketing mix finally balanced for your business, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So the marketing mix, as old as the hills, in fact, the marketing mix was formulated in the 60s, and for most people hasn't changed, but let's have a discussion about that. Things have changed significantly in the marketing space. There's a lot going on in the digital world, and there is some discussion in marketing terms amongst marketing people that the theory has gone from the 4 Ps to the 4 Es. So the original 4 Ps were product, price, place, and promotion. In fact, depending on who you spoke to, there's 7 Ps or even 8 Ps, but they're the main ones. There's a theory or a thought process out there these days that has moved away from product to experience. So back in the old days of marketing, a product was a set of features, a list of benefits, something that you sold. Whereas now the consumer wants that full experience. So with experience, we want the consumer, i.e. the tourist, to participate in the full customer journey and have the full experience with you. So that's gone from product to experience. Price has gone from what you sell your product for, usually that covers the cost of goods sold, to what's the value in it? What do you think people will pay to experience that, to get the full value out of it, not just cover the costs? Place has gone from the old bricks and mortar approach where everyone had a retail presence to every place. And consumers expect you to be everywhere. And in a marketing sense, that can mean digital and traditional. It means they want you on social media. It means they want to be able to book 24/7. They want you to be everywhere. And you kind of need to consider whether you are everywhere and whether you can do that or not. And the last one is promotion. So promotion was very much marketers speaking at the consumer. This is what I've got to offer. Come and buy it. Whereas now we are looking at evangelism or engagement more. So that E is the super important one. We want people to engage and be inspired by our products and experiences, that they want to shout it out to their friends on social media, review you, talk about it, be inspired and enthuse about you. So evangelism is the new promotion. So marketing return on investment isn't an exact science. We can do our best, and certainly with hard metrics, we have the numbers. But there's a lot more to it than that. We can measure soft metrics that are harder to measure, but we still need to know about them, and they're still worthy. First and foremost, though, we need to set some objectives. And in the travel and tourism industry, we're generally talking about an increase in revenue, an increase in visitor numbers, or an increase in leads or engagement. So we can look at the return on investment for those, but we need to set the objectives before we can do anything in terms of marketing activities. So for a travel or tourism business, sales is obviously the one that is first and foremost on a business owner's mind, because that's where the dollars are and that's where they look at making their profit. So sales can be number of products sold or total revenue, it's up to you. Visitation is very simple to know. It's people who walk through your door or visit your website, depending on what you're measuring. So once you've set your objectives and you know what you're trying to achieve, then you can look at what you can measure, the hard metrics. Generally, they fall into the categories of sales, where you might measure the revenue you've made or the number of things you've sold, i.e. room nights or tour seats or whatever you're measuring. Then you might look at average spend, and that's a really big one in tourism because we want to know how much on average people are spending. So for example, say you made $100,000 and you had 500 customers, you know those two things fairly easily. It's a simple calculation of $100,000 divided by 500 customers, and their average spend is $200. So you might want to be able to manipulate that. So your objective might be to increase average spend, and in which case you'd look at ways you can help that along, and you'd be able to measure that by your revenue. You might also look at leads, engagement and repeat visitation. Repeat visitation is always a good one for tourism. It's a challenge for many tourism operators, particularly those who target interstate and international visitors because they don't come back that often. But a repeat visitor is always a good one to measure because they're the cheapest ones to get back to come to your business. They're displaying some great brand loyalty and brand awareness, and they're the most likely to be your evangelists. They're going to speak wonderfully of you because they've had a great experience. So measuring repeat visitors is a really good metric to show your boss as well. So they're some of the hard metrics we can measure. They've got numbers, there's data, we can analyse them and get some insights from those. But the other thing that marketers spend money, time and attention on are soft metrics. And the soft metrics are a little bit more challenging to measure, but it doesn't make them any less worthy. It just makes them a little bit harder to prove that your return on investment is there. So you might be looking at things like brand awareness, loyalty, perception, preference, motivation for travel and share of voice. Organisations like Tourism Tasmania play in that space. They don't have a product to sell, they rely on all of you tourism operators to do that. Their job is to build brand awareness, to build motivation, to increase perception of Tasmania as a destination that people want to visit, and to get share of voice because Tasmania obviously is competing for the tourism dollar amongst all the other states and countries. So their job is to try to cut through some of that travel noise out there and get people to become motivated and want to come to Tasmania. Your job is to convert them. Okay, so now that you know about setting objectives and what are the hard and soft metrics to measure, now we need to start setting goals. We have to have something to aim for, and SMART goals are the best way to do this. So SMART is an acronym which means specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, relevant and time-based. So the examples there are you might want to build a database of leads of 1,000 names. You'll need to do that by a specific time, so you've got something to measure. So you could say, at the end of 2020, we managed to get 1,050 leads, and we would call that a win, and that's a goal achieved. Or you could look at it from a different way. You might want to sell $1,000 worth of the new package that you created, and it might be a really short-term campaign you're doing on Facebook. So you've got a lead time of 7 days with which to measure that, and you can do that quite easily using Facebook Insights. And then you can go back and go, well, we didn't quite achieve that, or we smashed that, and look at why that might have happened. So if you didn't achieve it, what was the problem? It's not necessarily the package that was the problem. It might be the image or the copy that you used to try to get people to come, or you might have targeted it badly. So yes, it's good to have the goals. It's very important to look at the actual numbers, but you do need to go back through that journey of what the customer experienced to work out where things went wrong. So that leads me to the important part of the discussion, which is the debate as old as time, traditional versus digital. I get asked this all the time. Where should I spend my marketing dollars? And unfortunately, there is no silver bullet here. The answer is it depends on your business, depends on your product, depends on your target market, and you need to have a very clear understanding of those two things before you can decide. So if you're looking at the traditional marketing methods, there's nothing wrong with those, and they're tried and true. However, you need to choose a traditional marketing activity based on ruling out a digital one. So you need to at least look at the digital options before you choose one or the other. Often, the best way to do marketing is a combination of traditional and digital. That way, you'll be able to reach your target market and get some good results. Let's look at what is a traditional type of activity and what's a digital activity. I'm sure most of you already know this, but for the sake of this presentation, let's go through the list. So traditional marketing activities are things like print, which includes print advertisements in magazines or newspapers or anything print publications. Radio and TV, which are obviously advertisements you pay to be displayed or shown on TV or radio. PR, you might talk to the media and try to get some media attention for your business. Direct mail, which is essentially you posting something to someone's address. Outdoor, you might see billboards or signs or trams go past with livery on them, with advertising messages on them. Personal selling in travel and tourism, that's commonly done at expos, consumer and trade expos, so you're personally talking to your potential customers. So they're the sorts of traditional activities that you can do, you still can do, and you should look at. However, there's some advantages and disadvantages to those, which we'll talk about in a minute. On the flip side is the digital options, which have been around for a while and continue to get more and more prevalent because they are cheap, they're quick to adjust, you can do them with quick results. So there's certainly something to look at as well. So we're looking at things like writing a blog, video advertisements, mobile advertisements, PPC or search engine marketing, SEO activities, social media, so posts or ads on social media, online ads, email targeting and retargeting for where people come to your website and you chase them with ads later on to try to get them to come back to your website and buy from you. And that's just a sample of some of the digital activities that you can do. So the next thing to do is to work out what is the best mix of traditional and digital. Okay, so we're going to take a closer look now at some of these activities. Not all of them, we've just picked a few of the key ones that I think might be of most interest to all of you. And the first one to look at is traditional, which we'll quickly go through. Then we'll look at social media, SEO, and influencers. So traditional, like I said, there's still a strong case for using traditional, there's still a strong case for using traditional marketing. Some businesses have more customers in that space, some don't, but it's all about understanding your customer and how they behave and what they'll respond to. But if you're going to use traditional, understand that digital is where your customer needs you as well. So let's look at a list of advantages and disadvantages of using traditional marketing activities. So the advantages are that some people just aren't online, or most of them are, but some are more online than others, several hours a day versus several minutes a day. So to get their attention, traditional marketing methods will be probably more likely to result in a sale. In a print publication, there are people who sit and read the paper from end to end, or they'll flip through the magazine, they'll notice your ad, they'll pass the magazine on, so there's more eyes on it. If you're looking at outdoor marketing activities, people, yes, they're on their screen, but they do look around occasionally, so they will look up and they'll see a billboard or they'll see advertising on a bus shelter, so they don't always look at their screen. People still listen to the radio. Traditional marketing activities don't require an internet connection. And the other good thing about traditional marketing activities is that they are usually seen by more than one person, so your one ad can get seen by hundreds or thousands of people. So the disadvantages of traditional marketing are that they're usually way more expensive than digital because you're putting a print ad or something in hard copy, which is difficult to change. It's difficult to measure because you don't know exactly how many people have seen that ad. It's difficult to change. It's too late often when things have gone to print or gone to air. Fewer people are buying magazines and newspapers these days. They're using more online services, so the print doesn't get seen by as many people. And of course, there's the wastage element where there's a whole lot of printed material that often goes into the bin, which is always a bit sad. So the next thing we'll talk about is social media. And social media is one of those marketing activities that people are either really into or they're really nervous about. And let's look at why it's a good thing to look at and some things to remember about social media. Firstly, you can't create social activity if you don't have a great product or service to sell in the first place. If your experience that the consumer is getting isn't brilliant, they're not going to talk about it on social. And if they do, it's going to be negative. So before you even get to the point of social, get your product and experience right. Secondly, you can look at other people's social media success and you might think that they're doing brilliantly, but social media success doesn't always relate to business success. So you could have things go viral, but it doesn't mean that you're meeting all your objectives, you're making lots of money, you're selling lots of things. It just means that you're good online. So have a think about that first. The third thing to remember is that social media pages do not replace a website. I get asked this a fair bit, which still surprises me. There are plenty of people out there that want to just run a Facebook page instead of having a website. So please don't do that. You don't own Facebook. You don't even own the page. Facebook owns the page. It just puts your name on it. It, at any whim, could take it down. Your website, you have control over. You can measure all the analytics. You can see what's happening, all the traffic that comes and goes from it. You can make the changes. You own how that looks. So please try to combine the two. Don't just have a Facebook page. The other thing about social media is you need to remember it's not a sales tool, it's an engagement tool. Social media helps you engage with your customer or potential customer. It creates a social channel. People use social media to be social, not to be sold to. So please don't go out there on your Facebook or your Instagram and be salesy. That's the last thing that's going to work. You need to engage with your customer, inform them, attract them, nurture them, make them feel part of your family, part of your tribe. But please don't sell to them. You can do Facebook ads, that's a whole different ballgame. But your online activity on your Facebook page is about engaging people. So you can measure the number of comments per post, the number of shares per post, and the number of likes per post. Those are 3 different ways of measuring your social media return on investment. While they may not result in a lead, at least you've got a start to know what you're doing and whether it's working or not. So by maintaining a strong social media presence, you get to build some great brand loyalty, you get to change perception perhaps, and you get to build a good following of people who you can take through to the next step of maybe converting to a sale. The next thing to look at is influencers. That's a relatively new phenomenon, certainly in the online space, but influencers have been around forever, as long as advertising's been around. An influencer is anybody who will talk about your product and influence other people. So they're either respected or highly credible people, and when they say they like your product or they endorse your product, people react to that. So when you're looking at influencer marketing, you're not necessarily just looking at celebrities, you're looking at anybody that has some sort of influence in some sort of social circles. And when you're working with an influencer, don't forget you're trusting them with your brand. You're giving them an opportunity to damage your brand, but ideally do some really good things with your brand. Talk about it from their experience, give it a good boost with their credibility, and showcase to their followers and their tribes that they like what you do, and therefore, ideally, their follower will like it too. With a testimonial from someone that we know and trust, we might look at them and go, I want what they're having. I want one too. I need to be like that person. And that's usually where the influence works at its best. So when you're looking at influencer marketing in terms of who your influencer might be, the first thing to do is to work out what your objectives are. And that can be based around driving sales, increasing followers, or introducing a new product, or things like that, things that you can measure. So you need to know the purpose of engaging with an influencer first. The second thing is to think about who your influencer needs to be. Not everybody needs a Kardashian to sell what they need to sell. In fact, if you could even afford one, you probably wouldn't get past her management team. So let's think about who might be a really credible voice for your business. So it would need to be someone that's respected by your target market. So again, we go back to who is your target market? Who are the people that you want to come and experience your product, and who are they likely to trust and respond to? And that's when you can look at, okay, so who are my influencers? Who are my list of options? Who might be likely to take an interest in my product and want to endorse it for me? And then who their followers are going to listen to and respond to in terms of conversion. Once you've chosen your influencer, whether it's a mega influencer like a celebrity or a micro influencer like a small name, most people wouldn't know who they were. In fact, they're only famous within those small circles of their tribe and their friends. Then you need to work out, what sort of campaign are you doing here? Is it a brand awareness campaign or is it a sales campaign? What are we tracking here? Are we tracking the number of likes or comments on that on that influencer's page, or are we tracking clicks? Are we tracking conversions? So think about all those things before you can assess whether the return on investment has been worth it using influencer marketing. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was SEO. And SEO is one of those terms that people either fully understand or have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. And it's often misunderstood with SEM. And that's understandable because I think even marketers get this wrong. So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, which essentially is making your website work better for you to get your listings in the Google rankings in an organic way. So when people search, they find your website because your website is optimized. SEM is about search engine marketing. Marketing essentially is a paid activity. So basically it's paid activities versus organic activities. So if you want to know whether SEO is a relevant marketing activity, absolutely it is. You have to understand, though, it's a long-term game. It's one of those things you have to continue to do to make sure you stay on page 1 of Google rankings or in the search engine results pages. It's really important to continually look at your website, find the areas that are not working for you and fix them. It's like maintenance on your bus, or in your room. You're always going to look at decor refurbishments or maintaining your bus. It's the same with your website. You need to keep up the maintenance, work out what's broken, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be improved. That's a long-term gain and will result over time with some really good results in Google. The reason it matters is because you don't want to be paying for people to click on your website every time. You want your website to come up for free, and that just means putting a bit of time in. As you probably know, or as you probably do yourself, most people search for things before they buy them. They don't just go out and buy the first thing they see. So you need to be in the mix when they're searching for products like yours. Your SEO is important because most people look for more than one page on your website. So once you've got them there, don't lose them by having broken links or making the user experience not very good. Make sure everything or the content's there, everything's working well, the links are working, and they can go through the whole funnel of arriving at your website, being interested in the pages, and then converting to a sale. SEO is also important because if a consumer has arrived on your site as a result of clicking on a link, then the chance of them bouncing off is much higher. So to reduce that bounce rate, it's better that they've arrived at your site from an organic listing that they've clicked on from Google. At least they've arrived at the right place and they're going to stay on your site and visit multiple pages. Okay, so with SEO and SEM, there's a whole bunch of hard data we can get out of that. The metrics, there's just so many of them. We can look at the list here. You can look at ad impressions in your search engine marketing, number of clicks from your ad, keywords, the amount of time people are spending on your site or on important pages, whether they've viewed the pricing page, whether they've clicked on a link to the booking page or the shopping cart. You can look at your Google Analytics and find out where the traffic's coming from. So you can look at a whole bunch of things and work out what's happening on your website, where people are coming from and what they're doing. If there's anything that seems wrong there, then you can go and fix that. So some people are pretty interested in SEO and they will learn all there is to know about it and fix things themselves. But the majority of tourism operators I know don't really understand how they can do this themselves. So you can either engage an agency to come and do your SEO for you, or you can learn about it yourself. Either way, you need to understand what's going on with SEO so you can understand what to look for and know if it's been fixed. So things that you need to do in terms of SEO, the first thing is to audit your website. Your website's the key here. So are all the links working? Do you have great content? Are you adding great content all the time? Is the experience that the user gets on your site what they want, and is it resulting in them looking at multiple pages and even down to are they booking on your website? One of the things that works really well in Google is loading time. So if your website takes more than 3 seconds to load, it's likely you've lost the consumer. They don't have time to wait. They're over it and they will click off and go to the next competitor down the line. So check your load time. Those things can be fixed. Check your meta tags, your descriptions, all those things can be done, and they're all free to do if you can do them yourself. Otherwise, you just need to understand what you're asking of an agent to do for you. Off-page things that you can do in terms of SEO are pretty simple as well. So Google My Business. You all know that you've got the access to fix your Google listing in terms of where you are on the map and your opening hours, your address. So make sure that that's all up to date all the time. Make sure you're trying to build links with people. Building links from a credible source is super important, and making sure that that link goes to a page that is live and relevant to the person who's coming over from whatever site they're coming from. And make sure you know what your competitors are doing. If you're not sure what to do, have a look at competitors. And there's ways you can do that by paying tools for this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Otherwise, you can just do keyword searches and see where it gets you. So if you think people should be searching keywords like deluxe hotel in Hobart, and you are a deluxe hotel in Hobart but you're not being listed, have a look at what your competitors are doing to make sure they're listed and do similar things to what they're doing. So the old question of SEM versus SEO, well, like I said, they're two different things. SEM is the paid version versus SEO, which is organic. So you can pay for some quick results. You can pay for ads, PPC, you might have heard of, pay-per-click, and you can get people to come to your website quickly. You might want to do that if you've got a campaign running, or if you're a new business, or you need to quickly make some quick sales. That's the sort of thing that will work. But that's not a sustainable business model. You can't keep getting people to pay each time they click to go to your website. You want the free listing. You want that organic search result. And that's where SEO comes in. So it's a long-term result. So if you're looking for someone to come in and fix your SEO and get immediate results, well, that's unfortunately not going to happen. It takes time. It takes time for Google bots to come back and crawl over your site and work out that it is indeed optimised and fixed and a great user experience. SEM, on the other hand, is something you pay extra money each time someone clicks. So you're only paying when they click, but each time someone comes to your site, if they've clicked on a lead or a link that isn't what they wanted, you're still paying for that and you've got the wrong customer. So it's important to look at those things as well. And in terms of online marketing, there's a whole host of digital marketing intelligence tools out there. The first one you may not be aware of, because it's only recently been changed, is Google's marketing platform has been joined together with Google Ads, together with analytics. So essentially they want you to be looking at your analytics for your site and also looking at your paid ads and making sure that they're all working together. So yes, they're earning a bit more money because they want you to spend money with them, but you're also able to in one space look at what's working in your ads and what's happening on your website. So are your ads working? Make changes and you're in the same space to check your analytics and see what people are doing on your site. If you're interested in what your competitors are doing, you can pay for tools. SEMrush is one of them. There's a whole host of others. So I've just given you a quick overview of some of the things that you can do to get a good return on investment and some of the tools you can use to look at whether those results are coming in. If you wanted to take a deeper dive and look at your business and how your business is getting results, maybe you can tap into the Digital Ready program that State Growth are running and get a consultant to spend their 2 hours with you looking at your business and what's happening. This is just a quick heads up. Every business is different and you do need to know a little bit about it to be able to make the most of it. So as we've just discussed, there's plenty of options out there, plenty of marketing activities you can do, plenty of ways you can measure it. The metrics are there, the tools are there. You've just got to work out what is going to work for you based on what you need out of business and what you need to do in your marketing space. And the measuring tools are all there. So we've only just taken a quick top line look at some of the things that you can be looking at. But what I wanted to finish with was a very clear message of, yes, you can do some great marketing things. Yes, you can analyse it. And of course, you need a great return on investment. But if things aren't going to plan, maybe you need to take a step back and take a good look at what your product is, who your market is, and whether those two things are in line. And of course, are your customers engaged after the experience? Are they talking about your product with great reviews and 5 stars and telling their friends to come and do it? If you've answered yes to those 3 things, that all those things are working, then yes, let's move on to your marketing plan and start looking at the return on investment you're getting from your marketing dollars. So many people obsess about their return on investment. Your boss wants to know what the return on investment is. You want to know. Your bank wants to know. You've got money that needs to be made. But before you go throwing money at any marketing activity, please don't rely on hope marketing. All I want you to do is make sure that whatever you do, you set your goals and you look at the results. Yes, some things don't go to plan. Some things go way better than what you thought they were going to. Have a look at why. Have a look at the things that happened along the way. Why it didn't work may not be because you've got a bad product. It may be because something happened along the line. But do that analysis. Make the most of your marketing dollar. Make it work hard for you and you'll enjoy a good return. So thanks for taking a look at return on investment with me. That's the end of the masterclass. My name's Sam Denmead. Please feel free to get in touch whenever you need, and good luck.